Welcome, ladies, to the Real Estate Investor Show, providing inspiration, strategies, and insight to empower women investors to live balanced and financially free lives. Now, here are your co-hosts, Liz and Andressa.
So in today's episode, ladies, we have Ada Lee. She is a general contractor in the Chicago area. Not only is she a general contractor, and she grew up in the general contracting and construction business, but she is both an active investor, a passive investor. She has experience in multifamily, mobile home parks, development. I mean, there's not one aspect, self-storage. There's not one aspect of this business that she's probably not involved in. And she is such a humble person. On today's episode, I really love today's episode for a lot of reasons. We get into, she's worked with her parents, her husband, best friend, and she's really gave some great suggestions on how to navigate that, which we're all figuring out still because it can get very blurred, if you will. And she gives some great suggestions on how to keep things kind of real and make sure you're balancing it all as both partners and, family members.
Yeah, it's a challenge, but she gave, great tips on that. And I think it's also good to see the perspective from a general contractor. And we talked about them as this like bad guy that is going to take her money and everything else. But it's good to hear from her the perspective. One of the most frequent questions that I get asked is how much is deposit should be in a project? And she goes through it. She shares her perspectives, and she also shares the red flags that you need to look after when you meet a contractor to know if he or she is a good fit for you. So this is an amazing episode full of specific tips for you. Ada is just, as Liz said, a very humble person, but a very experienced person. You can look at her bio and check what she has done. So get in touch with her. That's what I mean. Enjoy this episode.
Welcome back, ladies. This is Liz.
And this is Andressa.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Investor Show. If this is your first time joining us, thank you so much for listening. This show is dedicated to helping women live a financially free and balanced life. If you are a return woman who's been on this journey with us since we started a couple of years ago, thank you for being with us. And we're back with another episode here. We got Ada Lee in Chicago. Thank you so much for being on our show today. We're so excited to have you on.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm very excited to be here.
Ada is one of our Invest Her meetup leaders in Chicago. We've just relaunched that meetup recently. They got like a rock star team out there that's leading this meetup out there. So just excited to have you on. And we've been connecting a bunch. And whenever women are talking, I'm like, we gotta have her on the podcast. So that was what I had thought initially when I met Ada. So we're excited to have her on. Before we get into her story and before we get into all the good stuff we're going to get into with her, Andressa, like we always do, right? Women are putting their time aside to connect with us, with the women listening, with the community that we've been building in the investor community. But most importantly, we like to share a quick tip, strategy, something that's coming up for us every week to help all of you that's listening and that's on this journey with us. So it is your turn. What is happening in your world, Andressa?
It's my turn, right? So I'm going to talk about making it work. So Liz, this week I started a 75 hard. And if you don't know what that is, Google it, 75 hard challenge. And I came across this challenge. It to me is more like a mental challenge. It is physical, but to me is more mental because if I don't bypass my mental, I won't get to the physical. If you guys are following me. So I got that from Pili. And if you don't know Pili Yerusi, please check her out. She's a badass woman. And here's my point. It is a 75-day commitment where you got to work out twice a day, 45 minutes, drink a gallon of freaking water. No alcohol, no cheating meals. Got to follow a diet, got to read 10 pages per day. Audible does not work. So it was just a lot of things there that I was like, oh, okay, no, it doesn't work. This exactly week that I started, Liz and I are launching our week challenge. So our schedule, it's tight. It's getting dark outside. I am already full on my schedule. I can keep going over here with so many excuses or reasons. When I say excuses equal reasons why I would not do this. I already don't have time to spend, quality time with my son. So I will take from him. Like, that's my brain talking to me. And I decided that I was going to make it work, that it was important to me to start doing this and commit to do it. So I immediately text Billy, and she's my accountability person, right? You got to find somebody that is like, oh my gosh, this person will not let me fall, because she's texting me. She's like, what's going on with you? My mom was like, why are you sharing this with everybody? Because then if you don't do it, right?
Then no one knows.
Don't share it, because then I was like, well, that's the problem, right? Because I want to share it with everybody. And I am on day 3. I feel that I am like those folks that are going to, different challenges that they like, it's one day at a time. And that's where I am at. And I'm not giving up. But what I have found yesterday, right? I'm learning different things. The day one, I learned that I drink no water. And then a gallon of water for me was more difficult than doing the exercises, which is crazy. Yesterday, I have found a very profound thing for me. For me, it was profound. I came back home, had lunch, had dinner and everything else. And I still had a 45-minute workout that I needed to put in. And I wanted to spend time with my son. So I was like, okay, I need to combine this. So for a long time that I haven't done this, I put him on the stroller and I jog to the park.
Awesome.
But here's the thing. We start looking at the moon and the stars. And he's like, oh my gosh, there's so many stars. And I was like, oh, yes, there is. So I was like, wow. And then we bond at the park and then came back. We had an awesome time. But I think that this challenge is forcing me to be present and to say yes to things. Yes, I do have time. I don't have time to spend too much on Facebook, TikTok stories or different things. I don't, right? But I do have the time, and the energy that is bringing me, I can express. I'm day 3. I started having like sores, but it's all good. So
That's awesome.
For you guys that are listening, when you say, oh, I don't have more time, let's rearrange and make it work. Rearrange, make it work, and just commit. Have an accountability person, whatever that goal is, and move forward.
I'm so proud of you, but not just because you're my friend and partner, but you've been talking for a while about doing something like this. And I'm so proud of you that you are, and it's not just this like easygoing thing. It is a thing. It is a thing you have to schedule. And like, it's a commitment. That's why it's called
because if
hard.
I don't do it, I got to go back to day 1.
Oh my gosh. So I'm just so proud of you. And I love how you said, I want to be with my son and I need to do this 45 minutes. And then you got creative and your mind went to creativity versus I can't. And then look what beautiful things happen. You guys had a new experience together and you got your workout in. I love that. So keep up the great work there.
Fingers crossed, pray for me.
So that's awesome. So without further ado, Ada, I just wanted, as we always do, we ask the women that we interview, and we have such amazing women that we interview on our show. You as well. What propelled you, and your background's fascinating, so I know the women are going to love it, but what propelled you to get involved in real estate and investing and everything that you're up to right now?
Well, once again, thank you, Liz and Andressa, for having me. I'm very, very happy to be here. I think what propelled me to get into real estate and real estate investing was, it was almost a natural progression for me, because I started out, first generation. My parents are immigrants. They came here not speaking the language or knowing the culture. And the only thing that my dad knew, because he started out as a young 16-year-old, was on construction sites.
Where are they from, Ada?
Originally from China, and then they moved to Hong Kong, and they were there for about 2 decades. And my dad worked in construction. He it's a very interesting story. He's a refugee, and he left China under some interesting circumstances, which I won't get into yet. But he left China and moved to Hong Kong at a very young age, and his first job was on a construction site. So it was his lifeblood, basically. So when he immigrated here, that was really the only thing he knew how to do. And that's how I started in the business, just as a young child, absorbing everything, helping him out with permitting, with attorneys, with, the language barrier. It was such a learning curve for me as a teenager. When everyone else was out having fun and partying and being a teenager, I was like very studious, and I had to help my parents with their business. So that's how I started. And then I met my husband, who said, "Oh, this is great. I married a woman contractor. This is perfect." And, we started our own real estate syndication company, and now, we're doing our own development. We got back into it because I was doing, small developments with my parents on the side for a few years in the 90s. And then we started getting a lot more custom home builds for clients. And so we weren't concentrating on that as much, our own developments, but we're getting back into it. We have more hands on deck, as we say.
Mm-hmm. Love it. I love it. So, and you're involved in, so you're still an active GC, general contractor, working with, a variety of clients, right?
Correct.
And then you have your development projects that you're working on. You're doing some new builds for your own kind of investments. And then you're investing passively in a bunch of different things. So and mobile home parks, right?
Yes.
You're involved a lot. So there's a few ways we could take this. And there's a few, selfishly, I'm intrigued, but we want to get to the mobile home park information because you own quite a bit there. Let's start with just being a woman in construction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Andressa, this is like a topic near and dear to her heart.
Yes, I know that. Yeah.
I love it. I can talk all day.
And there's never there's never an end to that conversation, to be honest with you, because it's still very male oriented and male dominated. So
absolutely,
help tell us a little bit about that path for you, and what you've learned and what you would say to women who are, in the space of working with contractors all the time. What recommendations do you have? What tips do you have? We'd love to hear from you on that, because you've been in this business as being a kid,
right?
And that would be a wonderful way to go here, especially for women who are struggling at times and dealing with contractors, being taken seriously.
Yes. First, I want to say that I realize I come from a place of privilege because I am, quote unquote, the boss's daughter, correct? I started out, the guys would see me on the field and on job sites with my dad. So there was already a respect there. Oh, she's helping her dad. I like that. Second generation. That's awesome. So I realize I come from a place of privilege when it comes to that. But for a lot of women that are starting out, that don't have the background, that didn't grow up in the business, it's daunting because a lot of these, I'm not saying I shouldn't generalize. However, it's a male dominated space, as you've mentioned. And it's very hard to be taken seriously as the only woman in the room, as the title of your book, which I would love to ask you questions on later on about. But, to be taken seriously, you have to be not only well prepared, you have to know your stuff. I wanted to say another word, but I won't. You really have to know your, yes, exactly. You have to know your shit, because any small mistake is amplified, being the only woman in the room. And being sometimes a pioneer. Mistakes made by a male counterpart is brushed off. But when you do it, when you make that mistake as a woman, it can be very damaging. And I've had that happen on a lot of my projects where it's a simple mistake, but in my head, I amplify it and I do my best to correct it, without costing too much time or money for my client or for myself. And what I've learned is to, take it seriously, but at the same time, forgive yourself, because the more you amplify it in your own head, the more it will amplify in the space, that you're working with the men. And a lot of times they're there to help you too. They're there to catch you. Don't be afraid to ask questions. You are only as good as your team. And I found that there are some people that are more than willing to help you, to guide you, to answer any questions you have. So don't be afraid to ask, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. That was one of the major lessons I had to learn on my own. Oh man, I don't know if you guys had experienced that, but
no mistakes. No,
no mistake. Not you, Andressa, right?
No. Here, I'll share one for you guys.
Just one.
Just one. This right. It's so funny what you're saying. That is the truth. I didn't realize that. So I'll share what it is. We have a triplex. And recently I found out that the contractor in 2018 did not vent out one of the dryers.
Oh.
Just forgot to do that, right? But I have contact with the HVAC guy who did the work, and he maintains the property. So I said to him, "Hey, I need you to come here because on the outside I can see that things are coming out, but it's either somebody forgot to connect, or worst case scenario, you guys forgot to run the pipe itself." So he came, he made some holes, and he's like, "I don't know where the pipe is, so we need to run the pipe." I was like, great. But in my head, as you're saying what you just said about women and men, I said, shit, I did not check that. I need to put here on my punch list that I need to check every single vent from now on. And it's such a basic thing, right? It's just like buying a car and checking if there is like 4 wheels. But I was like, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, there is. Vent. Yes, let me check. It is obvious that I was expecting him to run vent up, but didn't. And then I had that. I was like, oh shit, I dropped the ball. And the guy was like, I don't know. I guess we need to run it.
Not taking any accountability for it, right? Even though it was their mistake.
Yeah, I guess we need to run it, and then I'll have to charge you for. I was like, no, buddy, you're not gonna charge it because this is supposed to be here, and this is your responsibility. I take responsibility for not double checking it and not catching this while all the walls were open. And now we need to find a creative way because I'm not gonna open up all the walls here to make this work. So then I contact another GC that is very creative. I was like, how can we do this the best way possible? And then we made it work. But as you were saying, I took responsibility, and while he didn't, right? And I think that a lot of the women that are listening here right now, when dealing with contractors, we always have this image of like this bad guy. Contractors are here to take our money and just run it, right? Right. And I wanna say to you guys, it isn't, right? It is not. And I think there's good and bad in every single. There's bad dentists, there's good dentists, and there's good contractors and bad contractors. So, but it is refreshing to me to be talking to a contractor so we can ask the questions from another perspective, right?
Correct. Right.
Because many times what we hear is, okay, what is fair? One of the biggest questions, the most frequent questions that I get is, what is fair to give as a deposit? And then my question is, in what? In a commercial, residential, new construction? In what? As a deposit? Because my guy is asking for 50% up front, or I don't know, the whole thing. So from a GC perspective, a general contractor perspective, I'll ask you that question.
Okay.
What will be a fair deposit? And then you can share your experience and the why behind it.
Here's some of my insight. It all depends. Just to generalize, it is a major red flag if someone that you've never worked with asks for a 50% deposit. I think that as a general contractor, I would never do that to a client. If it's a few $100s, maybe if it's a small project. But if you're talking somewhere in the thousands, a 50% deposit is quite a lot of money, for a lot of people. I don't know how it is in other states, but in Illinois, we have the general contractor has a tool in their toolbox called a mechanics lien, which in Illinois, you're technically required to do the work first and then get paid. And that's why you have that mechanics lien as a general contractor in your toolbox. If a client doesn't pay you, you get to place a lien on their title. So in many of my projects, for example, I don't get a deposit, especially if it's paid through a title company. So I'm all technically as a contractor, almost floating this project, for the first, 20% of the job. And then once there's fixtures in place or there is a structure in place, then I will do the paperwork for a payout to the client. They send out a third party to make sure the work is done. And then the bank releases the funds to me. That protects me as a general contractor, that protects the client, that protects the bank and the mortgage holder. But if you're talking about smaller projects that don't go through a title company, man, you're going to paint me in a corner here, aren't you, Andressa? I think as a general contractor wearing that hat, a small deposit is not out of the question. But as if I was talking to a friend who just signed a contract with somebody, I would say generally, a 10 to 25% is safe. I don't know what you think, Andressa. What have you advice have you given?
Well, I think it really depends, right? If it is new construction, is a completely different scenario. I always think
absolutely.
about okay, what is coming ahead and what it will be the cost for doing foundation? Are we talking one foundation, 3, 4, 5, 6, or are we doing demo in a house, a clean out in a house? So I always think about the next step, and I feel that exactly as you said, when it's a green light. When I see the general contractor is running a business and he has capital to start the next phase independently. And I totally agree with you. It's just a protection that both sides have. Right. Because you guys also you guys need to get paid for the work.
Absolutely. Yes. We have creditors, we have vendors we have to pay, we have subcontractors we have to pay. Yeah.
But a lot of I think that the mistake here is that a lot of general contractors, the smaller guys that do residential, they don't leverage, for example, lines of credits with suppliers. They just go to Home Depot, buy everything, and then they get in a position where their cash is tight. So from a GC perspective, besides the 50% upfront, what are the other red flags that you will tell people run from this person?
I always tell them to run if they're not insured. It always, dealing in construction, there's so many dangerous scenarios and liability issues. I always make sure that I tell my clients, or my friends that ask for advice, are these people insured? Can you get references? Because, that is very important. If you are unsure of their work, if they don't have a website, if they're not technically savvy and you can't see their work, references are so important. Can they give you a client's name or number, or, a few of them? You could see their work if they can give you the address of some of the job sites. Some of the other things I would look for as well. Are they able to, get permits? There are so many scenarios that I've heard from clients where they've had a bad GC because, everything looked good on paper, but then when it came time to pull the permit, they said, "Oh, we can't do that. The owner should do that." Oh, I don't know. To me, that's a red flag.
I totally agree with you. Yes.
Because that tells me that either they've had a bad reputation with the municipality that they've worked in and they're on some sort of, blacklisted, situation. So I would hesitate if they couldn't pull their own permits or have someone pull their permits for them with their name on that, on that permit. That's all I can think of off the top of my head, but I'm sure once we get going, there'll be other things that I can.
No, those are awesome. I think that what you're saying, and I will put that on the contract, because then before you hand the check, right? It's an agreement, because it's very hard once you hand the check already. And then they say, well, no, it's on you to pull the permit or wait, hold on a second. Give it back.
Right, exactly.
Oh, I already deposit. Oh, geez. Yeah. So I totally agree with you in that sense. And for you guys right now, as a general contractor, do you guys also build for yourselves or for clients only?
Both. We build for ourselves.
Was there a transition or was always being like that?
It hasn't always been like that. It's been a gradual transition, more so lately. And it's worked out well because I get a lot of things at cost. So my client, and I put this in air quotes, is my husband or the development company that we have together. And it's ironic. It's actually some of the more challenging projects I've had is with my own family members.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Because you're trying to wear both hats and it's just so difficult. You're like trying to be the GC. And then at the same time, you're also receiving the product from yourself. And you're like, oh, now I know why there's punch lists because I'm not satisfied with this. I'm not satisfied with that, So it's been quite, it's been quite the fun journey. It is fun, but a journey nonetheless.
But I think that's a great strategy. We're actually, for the first time in our tenure of investing, we're going to be partnering with a GC who we've done, other things with. We respect. They have the capacity. They don't have any of these red flags. But we're going to be partnering with them to build another, because we have a 50 unit apartment building in Pennsylvania, and we have a raw piece of land that we got with the building we have never done anything with. So we're contributing the land. They're going to be doing things at cost to build another 30 units on this opportunity. But it's our first time really partnering in that way with an existing, they're doing stuff for other people just like yourself. But we're really excited about this opportunity in that we're actually, it's like they're so professional, and they have such the ability to do this type of project. And I'm laughing sort of because that wasn't always the case for us. We got our start in Trenton, New Jersey, and we would take any contractors that were willing to come to Trenton, New Jersey. And you could just fill in the blanks of the people we've worked with over the years. I mean, everything you said, red flags, that has all been the case for so many people we've worked with over the years. And, it just goes to show you what my point in sharing this with you is that it's very creative to partner with a GC that can do things at cost, and you bring something to the table as the investor, as long as you vet them and everything right along those lines, of course. But that's a very interesting strategy, and it's a very smart strategy. It can really be. And then they're going to be a partner in that building with us as well. So I just say that because depending on where you invest, right, where we all invest, some GCs are willing to go certain areas, other contractors are willing to go to other areas. And I just say that because we didn't always think about that when we were looking at a market and we were looking at investment property. We didn't think about contractors, like who are the contractors that work here? And I think that's so important because depending on, the type of area, not all contractors are going to work in all areas, obviously. And it's something to consider before you buy that investment property. Who's going to go do the leasing there? And I know it seems so obvious. Sounds like stupid coming out of my mouth a little bit, but we didn't think through all those things early on. And, I wish we had, and obviously we think of those things now, but, just things to consider because contractors are people too. Right. And they want to do business in areas that they're going to be able to do other projects too, right? They have to maximize their time and energy. So just some thoughts there on that. I just wanted to share.
I'm glad you brought that up because majority of our developments and our work and our clients are within a few mile radius of us. I mean, Chicago's a big city, but a lot of my projects are on the south side where I live. It's in the neighborhood where I live because everyone knows us. They know our reputation. They know we've been around for a while. Right. One of the development projects that I'm doing right now, it's funny you bring this up. It's very similar. The owner of the land is partnering with us. Yeah. They offered up the land. We're offering up our expertise in our business. Yeah. And it was just a win-win situation, right? And that's exactly what you're doing, Liz.
Yeah. And if you can figure that out versus us hiring them, we could, right? So we have to give a little bit up there, but it's so much in our better interest. And then they're expressing what their fees are and we're and us as well as we're putting this together and going to the, to the zoning board because we have to do some zoning stuff. So anyway, it's going to work out well. But yeah, it's a graduation, right? We didn't start with that. We started with all the red flags. A couple of things. I love that your a woman and minority owned business, and you have you have that certification. There's a lot of women listening that have that, or are actually own their business, but maybe aren't taking full advantage of those of that criteria, if you will. So I'm just curious, and I know obviously you're in Chicago, might be different in all the states of the women, listening to this. It's not going to be exact, but I don't know if I'm taking all of the advantages of the businesses that we own, right, Andressa? I want to just go there if we can for a few minutes. Why did you do it? And what advantages have you seen to come from it as you've worked in your business and grown your business?
Okay. Yeah, that's a great question. And it's, we got our certification last year in May, and it was a few years in the making because the city of Chicago and the county and the surrounding county have a reciprocity program. And once you get certified with the city, you technically are certified with the county as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it worked out well, but I never took full advantage of it either, to be honest, because I realized there was a lot of paperwork. I wasn't even sure if we qualified because there was for a few years, I believed, and I maybe I'm misremembering, but I thought that being Asian business owner was not considered a minority anymore. Yeah, it was weird. I might have confused it with something else, but I never did the certification. I never put our company through the ringer that way. And it was not until last year when a business opportunity presented itself, but it had to be partnered with somebody that was minority or women business enterprise. And that's when I was like, just do it. So I spent 3 months. And it took 3 months to gather all of your financials, the background of each individual owner in the company, which were my parents. And it took 3 months to gather all the information. And it took another few months for the city to approve it. And they have free programs to help you walk through it for anyone interested. I would say just do it because there is a small fee, but it's nominal. And I think it's worth it because it opens up a whole line of revenue of business for you. You don't have to take every contract that comes your way, but you are also on a list of other larger companies that do want to partner with a minority or women business owned enterprise. And you could learn a lot from them by partnering with them because that's how they get their credits.
Yes, exactly. So for the ladies that are listening this and they're saying, what are you talking about? Right. So
sorry, I should have said something.
No, it's all good because being a certified business owner opens a lot of opportunities because public work require that to be the case. I know that here in Philadelphia, I was part of a workshop where they were saying because women are not certified, all the job goes to other companies just because they don't have who to give it to. So for you, for the ladies that are listening, in your experience, what are the advantages and why would you recommend somebody to get certified?
It's not for everyone if you don't have the infrastructure in place, because the things that they ask you include, tax returns. And I don't know how it is in Philadelphia, but in Chicago, they want 5 years, previous 5 years of everything, your financial records, your personal tax returns, your company tax returns. So you have to really have all of your paperwork in order, your operating agreements, your state of corporate good standing. They just want a lot of information because they want to make sure you're legitimate, because I believe there have been in the past, there's been, fraud. So to protect everybody, they ask for a lot of paperwork. And if you are new in the business, I'm not sure if you need to be, working for 5 years. That's something that I am actually not sure of because we've been in the business so long that it never occurred to me to know if you needed 5 years of experience before you apply. So it's something you have to research thoroughly before you do. But some of the advantages, there's so many opportunities out there that are not being taken advantage of by women and minority businesses. Maybe because they don't have, the help that they need, or they have so many questions, but don't be afraid to ask for help. There's so many free workshops, but back to the advantages, there is money to be made. there are great opportunities, because I always think that it only takes one of these projects to lead to bigger and better things. You can scale up from there. That's part of why we did this, because, we've been such a small operation for so many years that with me taking more of the day-to-day operations, I would like to scale our company. And I think that is a great opportunity for us.
Yeah, I love that. And it also is very applicable as women and men and whomever are considering buying businesses, right? Not just buying property, but actually buying businesses, and what's available to women and minority owned certified, business. It just opens up, and it's a whole new world to me as well, to be honest, but something that's been intriguing to me. And I'm like, I got to look a little further into it, but it's like anything, right? You got to take the time. Would you recommend local reps to start with? Or like you said, there's workshops. Do you just find that in your kind of local area in terms of just the government,
yes.
like the county, if you will? Is that the best place to start? Okay.
Correct. Start with your local municipality and look up, women and minority business enterprise certification. And I believe those keywords will pull up whatever's in your county and whatever is in sometimes it's state, sometimes it's as big as the state, but it's worth looking into. And I think there's always free workshops.
Yep. And I'd also say with the local municipality, especially if it's an area that you're investing in, these are good people to know anyway.
Absolutely.
Right? Because these are the folks that might know about the new company coming in 2 months. Or I feel like the local municipality, I don't know about the both of you, but are just such underutilized go-to people in our world of real estate that, beyond the conversation we're having right now about becoming certified as a woman or a minority business, you can just pick their brain about the area and the market, right? I mean, these are just great people to network with, regardless, especially if you're just an investor in real estate. So
untapped resource, Liz, definitely.
Yeah. And these people that you call them and you're like, can I make an appointment? They're like, sure. They never have a lot of things, at least people that are called, they don't have a lot going on for whatever reason. Right. They're always available. I'm like, is anyone else talking to these people? That's what I wonder sometimes, but yeah, underutilized. Very cool. It's we got to ask you, I mean, you grew up in this business with your family, you work with your husband, you talk about, and you work with other clients with your family. Then you have your own development projects. Then you're passively investing in a ton of multifamily self-storage. You're doing mobile home parks. I mean, you don't have one thing going on. I mean, I thought I had a lot going on, but that's a lot going on, especially with your husband, your family. It's very intertwined, and it has been since you've been young. So, would love to pick your brain, right? What has been some secrets to your success, if you will, to do that, to manage that, to quite honestly, keep growing together? I mean, you keep getting involved in different things. So how have you been able to make all that work?
Very good question. Yeah. It's been tricky to navigate, but I think having our personalities work well together helps. I personally, that's funny. I keep saying personally, but I don't take things personally. I can have a huge, disagreement with my father about the business. But at the end of the day, we will respect each other's opinions and we will take it into account. And I think that's what makes it work. And the same with my husband. There has to be a baseline of respect. You have to come to the table and realize that you might be disagreeing about the method or the process, but at the end of the day, you want the same thing. You want the same goal. You're working towards the same goal. And like I said, when there is a disagreement, don't take things personally. And I make sure that is a mantra. Being a sensitive person, it is work to not take things personally.
How did you get there, though?
Yeah, how did you do it? Please.
Secret.
Yeah, I take everything personally. So how do you do it?
I let myself dwell in it for a little bit, and then you have to shake it off, because you can't move forward if you're sitting in there and it's swirling around in your head, all these dark thoughts, and then you start doubting yourself. I give myself a little break and I say, okay, you can be upset about it, but give it a time limit and then move on. And you can revisit it, but when you're not as emotional. And then you have to look at it from their perspective as well. Do they have a point? And sometimes in the heat of the moment, maybe they regret what they said as well. But it took practice, and it's like that. And it really, it's so funny that at 41 years old, it's taken me this long to kind of, be able to unplug from it and let go at the end of the day. And for some people, it might be journaling, it might be meditating, it might be exercising, but whatever it is, you always have to let go after some point.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, but I'm proud that at 41 and not at 81, 91, you did it.
Exactly. Exactly, Andressa.
Right?
The fact that we've all, we've learned our lessons and we get to this point. It doesn't matter how old you are. You've learned the lesson, right?
Thank God. So I'm reading this book called Let It Go right now.
Really? Okay.
Yes. And it's funny because the guy talks about all the different things that we try. We try meditation, we try visualization, take amino acids, you go to a medium, you do different things. And the last thing that we do is really like to let it go. And it's so powerful. That means that it's not easy to let go of something, but it's, as you were saying, it takes a lot of work and being present, acknowledging, oh, okay, brain, you're telling me a lot of things here, right? That I might not agree, but I love that you were saying, okay, you can revisit, I'll give you a time. I think that's great technique. I'll give you a 10 minutes.
Exactly.
You can make me crazy for 10 minutes. And I'll revisit when my emotion is in a different state.
Yes. I think a lot of times we govern with emotion, and we really need to take a step back. And I've learned to, even in my texts and in my emails and my responses, I'll type it up. I won't send it. I'll back off. And then you come back and you revisit it, and you look at it from a clear perspective, and you say, is this what I really want to say? Can I say it in less words and less sentences? Can I be more concise? I mean, it's just, it's a work in progress, ladies. It's a work in progress.
Totally.
And do you have certain rules with your husband? Because now
yes,
you live together. So it's a little, sometimes it's easier to separate if certain family members, right? You don't live together. But so with your husband, have you created any sort of like terms or boundaries or just things that you've evolved to over the years? Okay.
Yes. Boundaries are so important when you work with family, whether it's your parents, whether it's your siblings, whether it's your best friend, whether it's your husband. Setting boundaries early on is important, and those boundaries can change, and they will change. Some of the things that we will allow at the dinner table, maybe talk about work, but it has to be short and concise, and then it has to be over. And then the rest of it is about how your day went, what your plans are, things like that. But it can't always be about work. And I think that a lot of husband and wife teams have that problem.
Absolutely.
They forget why they fell in love with each other to begin with, and being a business partner is very different from being, a spouse. So you have to wear those different hats, but put those boundaries in place, set some times where you only talk about work during work hours. And then after that, it really should be off the table. You can't help it if something comes up, right? But don't let that suck up all your time as a couple or as a family.
Yeah. And it's near impossible having a serious conversation with us, because especially with our kids running around.
Yes.
It's like, he's like, so I got something I want to share with you. And my son's like, bah, bah, bah. I'm like, I can't really hear you right now. So can we schedule some, it's just, even just having those conversations, like seriously, my son, that's all he does. He's like, it's like I have 10 kids sometimes. He's the loudest kid, and he just literally just screams out like he's got something came over him like an alien. But anyway, but that's huge, right? To have those conversations. And it's, and it evolves. What's working today isn't always going to work the next week. And
exactly
something that's worked with me and my husband is we'll schedule some time to go over business, and we schedule it. and then we do something fun immediately after. So it doesn't feel like too worky. So we haven't actually done this, but like we're scheduling it in the next few weeks where we'll have an hour meeting and then we're going to take a bike ride or have a meal together, go out to lunch or take a walk when
That's
the kids
such a good idea.
Yeah. Like we really needed, like it's our new, cause like we were like getting frustrated with each other with a couple of different things. And I'm like, we need to incorporate fun because him and I actually have fun really well together. That's something like when we're just having fun and we enjoy each other's company, but when we talk about stuff that's serious is when we can kind of butt heads and we have different opinions on. So let's incorporate something that actually works for our relationship, like incorporate some fun. It was actually Matt's idea, but that's okay. I'll make believe it was my idea.
What's your idea, Liz? It's your idea.
Yeah,
you planted the seed in his
head. Exactly. But you got to keep evolving. And I love that you keep evolving with your family. So what's next for you? I mean, you're involved in so many different aspects of real estate and you have this growing business that you're also doing all this work. So like for you as an investor, especially with your investor hat on, I'm curious personally, what's next for you or what investment vehicle intrigues you most as you're looking with everything happening with our current, COVID, pandemic, recession, like what's intriguing you these days? What are you most excited about from an investing perspective?
Oh, that is a good question. My investing hat is so flimsy, Liz, to be honest, because I'm so focused on being a general contractor and building that, I'm a newbie when it comes to investing. So you guys have a lot more insight than I do. But what interests me right now during the time of this pandemic and the downturn in the economy, just loss of jobs, I think is mobile home parks. I think right now we're having a really hard time and we're having a reckoning with affordable housing. I think for so many years it was ignored. There was no incentive for developers, honestly, to develop affordable housing. Yeah. It doesn't make financial sense when the price of lumber, when the price of steel, when the price of appliances, when the price of everything has gone up exponentially. I was just complaining to my lumber vendor. I was like, I remember a couple of years ago, you were charging me $1.56 for a 2x4. You're now charging me $8. Wow. And it breaks your bank. It breaks, whatever profit that you were going to make as a developer. So what incentive is there for affordable housing? None whatsoever. Unless, a municipality or government steps up and says, here is land, please develop this. And here's some tax incentives for the developer. I really don't see any other way. I'm sure there is. I'm sure some of your listeners have ideas, but right now, affordable housing is something that we are now pivoting towards and looking at, which is why mobile home parks as an investor has become sort of the forefront, of our goal here.
That's really great. And where are you focused on right now in terms of geography of the in the country?
Geography wise, we're in the Sunbelt. So South Carolina, North Carolina, Texas, Kansas, which is Midwest. But those are all the places we're looking at.
Yeah, where there's growth of people. Yeah, growth of
jobs and yes, absolutely.
Makes a lot of sense. It's awesome. Very cool. Ada, where can the ladies listening learn more about you? You've been such a wealth of knowledge here. Where can they learn more about you or connect with you further?
So I'm going to give my email address. It's for my general construction company, but I'm always on that email. So they could reach me at Ada, at winnerconstructioninc.com. That's Ada at WINNER constructioninc.com. And if they want to learn more about our passive investments and some of the other things that we're doing, they could visit our website. It's another mouthful. I'm sorry. We couldn't pick any, easier names, but it's www.hardscrabbleinvestments.com. And I'll spell that out for you. It's HARDSCRABBLE investments, plural.com.
Awesome. And for all of you guys that couldn't drop that down, don't worry. I got you covered. All of this information you guys are going to find on our show notes. And now we're going to transition to our fabulous 3 questions. And the first one, Ada, is what's the most transformational book you have ever read?
Ooh, I'm still reading it. I'm in the middle of it by Chris Voss.
Oh, and Never Split the Difference?
Yes.
Oh,
which to me, it's everyone's favorite book, but I just stumbled on it so late because I just don't have time to read much, but yeah, that for me was very interesting. And I never looked at it from that perspective. And I love that it was recommended to me.
Yeah, I love that book. Because I always thought splitting the difference was fair.
Right. So it's good compromise.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it was interesting to look at it from that perspective. Like no one wins. No one wins. Exactly.
The second question is, what's the most powerful routine that you do to create a financially free and balanced life?
Oh, geez. That's its own podcast, isn't it, ladies?
That is its own podcast.
True.
I guess the advice, oh man, that's so hard to answer because sometimes we're in a good financial place, but I think because I grew up poor, I always feel like I'm not. Does that make sense? So for me, it's always, finding that new investment and having, good due diligence and starting early. If I had started doing this in my 20s, I would be retired by now, and I kick myself all the time for not taking this more seriously when I was in my 20s, instead of, living life,
So here's what I want to say to you, Ada, because, for those of you that are listening, check her bio. We're not talking to somebody. She's very humble with what her story and her journey. But check her out because I just want to acknowledge all the work that you have done in your experience. You bring a lot to the table as a contractor, as an investor. I don't consider you a newbie at all in investment. It's just a matter of transitioning.
It never feels enough. And it might just be being like you guys, the only woman in the room. Check out their book on Amazon. But it's, it's just one of those things where you always feel like you have to be perfect. You have to know the most, be the most prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's why we all put ourselves in a different position because we're consuming and we are getting better and better and better and better. So when we have those conversations, we're like, yeah, I can talk construction with you. Not a problem whatsoever. Right? Yeah, right. I'm 5'4", but I can talk construction with you. Not a problem. The last question for you is, which women, famous or not, have inspired you the most?
Oh my goodness. You guys are killing me with these questions. Oh, I would say it would be the women in my life. And it's hard to pinpoint one because I admire my grandmother. I admire my mom. I admire, my best friend and my mentor. I had a mentor when I was 16 and she's still my mentor now. And, I feel like it's not just one person. And I know I'm hedging my bets here, but I'm really not because I am a product of all the women that have lifted me up and have hugged me, given me a group hug when I needed it the most. You as well, you and Liz, because I feel like I have finally found my tribe. It's so hard. It's been so hard, being in real estate and in construction as a woman. But I feel very safe with you guys.
That's awesome. That's music to our ears because that was always our intention.
You've done it.
We can find each other because we are all there, right? Some people say, "Oh, there's not too many women in real estate." There are, but they are under the radar, and we don't know each other. But now we are finding our place where we can say, "Hey, me too."
Yes,
me too.
I gravitate towards a lot of the women that I see at some of the real estate conferences I attend. I'm always like, "Ooh," because you realize you guys are we're in a special club.
Yeah. Yeah. Ada, thank you so much for being on our show. Thanks for sharing all your great knowledge and just sharing yourself. We really appreciate you. And thank you for leading the Chicago meetup team out there, and love to come visit you guys out there at some point.
We'd love to have you. Thank you so much, Liz and Andressa, for having me. This has been such a wonderful experience.
Awesome. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to receive updates on our next interviews, go to our website, therealestateinvestor.com. There, you can subscribe to our show, become part of our investor community, and get updates on upcoming episodes.
If you like our show, please share with other women who would benefit. And don't forget to leave us a rating on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. And as always, we encourage you to take one action as a result of today's show and put it into motion. so you can live both a financially free and balanced life. Thanks for spending time with us.
Ciao.